In a world of unanswered questions and unsolved riddles, one clue can change everything. You're listening to The Last Clue, where mysteries don't just get solved, they get experienced. I'm Jessa, guiding you through the shadows of each case. What you hear might disturb you, what you miss might deceive you, and what you discover might surprise you. Ready your notebooks and sharpen your instincts. The most observant among you will earn immortality on our wall of fame. The mystery begins now. The Vanishing Guest, Episode 3, The Footsteps No One Heard. The case of Lena Carter's disappearance is beginning to unravel. A message appears on her phone long after she vanished. A mirror reflects shadows that don't belong, and a diary, buried for decades, whispers warnings from the past. But tonight, a new clue emerges, one that defies explanation. Are you still with me, detectives? Because things are about to get even stranger. Sheriff Tom Davies finally retrieves the security footage from the inn's hallway cameras. The recording plays in grainy black and white, time-stamped at 1:37 a.m., the last time Lena's phone was used. The footage shows an empty hallway. The door to Lena's room remains shut. No one enters, no one leaves. But there's something else. A sound. Footsteps. The security footage played on a loop on Sheriff Davies' laptop. The grainy black and white image showing the empty hallway outside room 6. Margaret Hell and Olivia Parker huddled behind him, their faces illuminated by the screen's pale glow. The footsteps were unmistakable, slow, deliberate, the sound of a heavy tread on aged wood. 1, 2, 3, 4, moving down the hallway toward Lena's room. But the screen showed nothing, no shadow, no figure, not even a disturbance in the air. The sheriff suggested it could be audio interference or someone walking on the floor above. But Margaret Hell pointed out there is no floor above. That's the top level. Olivia Parker wasn't convinced by the technical malfunction theory. She replayed the footage over and over. The steps were unmistakable. And then she noticed something else. Just as the last footstep fades, Lena's door unlocks. As the invisible footsteps reached Lena's door, the handle moved. Not turned, as if by hand, but shifted. The metal seemed to ripple, like heat rising from hot pavement. And then, without a touch, the lock clicked. The door drifted open just an inch. The sheriff muttered that it wasn't possible, but they had all seen it, all heard it. But Lena never walks out. The door remains slightly ajar, but she never steps through it. Instead, the hallway falls silent once more. A moment later, the door swings closed on its own. What does this mean? Did Lena leave the room at all? Or did something else enter? While the sheriff and Margaret debated technical explanations for the footage, Olivia retreated to her room with Eleanor Gray's diary. The parallels between Eleanor's experience and Lena's disappearance were too strong to ignore. But she needed more context, history, pattern if one existed. An entry in the journal from the same night in 1947 states, June 17th, 1947, "The night air feels wrong. I hear footsteps in the hall, but when I look, no one is there. Last night I woke to find my door open. I swear I locked it. But worse than that, I think someone was inside my room, watching, waiting. I feel it even now." She spread her research across the bed. Printouts of local newspaper archives, notes from her interviews with the inn's staff, photographs of the building's interior. A travel writer by trade, Olivia had always been meticulous in her research. Now, that methodical approach might help solve a mystery. The pattern emerged slowly at first. Then, with alarming clarity, 1922, a guest named Clara Jenkins reports strange movements in her room's mirror. She checks out early, leaving most of her belongings behind. 1947, Eleanor Gray disappears from room 6. No trace is ever found. 1963, a man named Thomas Webb vanishes overnight. The only clue? His shoes placed neatly beside the mirror. 1985, a college student staying in room 6 for a single night is never seen again. Her journal, found under the bed, mentions something looking back from the glass. 2001, a woman checks in under the name Eleanor. Security footage shows her entering room 6, but never leaving. When staff enter the room, they find it empty. And now, 2024, Lena Carter. The intervals were irregular, but the pattern was clear. Every few decades, someone vanished from room 6, and always the mirror was mentioned in connection with their disappearance. Sheriff Davies was a pragmatist, but he wasn't stubborn. The evidence, however bizarre, demanded attention. He expanded his investigation, ordering his deputies to research the history of disappearances at Willow Crest Inn. He contacted state police, requesting any unresolved missing persons cases connected to the area. And he brought in a technology specialist to analyze the security footage frame by frame. The specialist, Dr. Miranda Weeks, was baffled by what she found. The footage hadn't been tampered with. No digital manipulation, no editing. The door had indeed opened on its own, and the audio hadn't been added later. The footsteps were part of the original recording. But most disturbing was her analysis of the moment before the door closed again. Using advanced enhancement techniques, Dr. Weeks isolated a single frame where something appeared to move across the doorway. Not a person, not even a complete form, just a distortion, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. But within that distortion, the vague suggestion of a face. It could be a compression artifact, Dr. Weeks explained, or light reflecting off dust particles. But her voice lacked conviction. She had seen something in that doorway, something that shouldn't be there. Sheriff Davies ordered the room sealed. No one in, no one out, except for law enforcement personnel. The mirror became the focal point of the investigation. Photographed, measured, examined for hidden compartments or mechanisms. Nothing was found. It was just a mirror, ancient, slightly warped with age, but just a mirror. Or was it? But there was something else, a detail that sent ice through Olivia's veins. In each case, the person who disappeared had been researching previous disappearances. They had come to the inn deliberately seeking answers, just as Lena had, just as Olivia was doing now. She was following the same path, and suddenly the mirror in her own room seemed to loom larger, its reflection a little darker than it should be. The diary's final entries became increasingly erratic, the handwriting less controlled, the ink blotched where Eleanor's pen had pressed too hard against the paper. The fear in her words was visible. I don't dare sleep. When I close my eyes, I hear whispering. They know my name. They're calling me. Closer. Always closer. The last coherent entry, dated June 17th, 1947, ended mid sentence. The mirror isn't a mirror at all. It's a. The rest of the page was blank, as if Eleanor had been interrupted or taken. Olivia closed the diary, her hands trembling slightly. The silence in her room felt heavier somehow, more oppressive, and though she tried to ignore it, she couldn't help feeling that she wasn't alone, that something was watching, waiting. Margaret Hill had been the innkeeper at Willow Crest for nearly 15 years. She had inherited the position from her mother, who had inherited it from her mother before her. 3 generations of Hell women keeping watch over the old inn, keeping its secrets. After the revelation of the security footage, Margaret's composure began to crack. She found herself drawn to room 6, standing outside the police tape, staring at the door as if expecting it to open again. Sheriff Davies noticed her agitation and questioned her more forcefully than before. "What aren't you telling me, Margaret? What do you know about this mirror?" Under pressure, Margaret finally revealed what she knew, or at least part of it. The mirror had been in the inn since its construction in 1897. It had originally hung in the main hall, but after a series of incidents, her grandmother had moved it to room 6. Why not simply remove it entirely? Margaret didn't know, couldn't explain. Her grandmother had insisted the mirror stay, that it couldn't leave the property. She said it was bound to the house, Margaret explained, that it was waiting for someone. The sheriff pressed for more details, but Margaret seemed genuinely confused. The mirror's history had been passed down through whispers and half-truths, its purpose obscured by time. All Margaret knew was that guests sometimes complained about room 6, about feeling watched, about strange dreams, about reflections that moved a moment too late. And sometimes guests disappeared, just like Lena Carter. Margaret Hell appeared at Olivia's door, holding out a faded photograph she'd found in the old records room. The image showed the inn as it had been decades ago, the facade virtually unchanged. But it was the group of people standing on the front steps that caught Olivia's attention. 5 women, dressed in the fashion of the 1940s, smiling for the camera. And in the center, unmistakable despite the years separating them, stood Lena Carter. Next time, we dig deeper, and with every clue we find, the danger grows. What do you think happened? Send in your theories before the next episode drops, because soon, the truth will no longer stay hidden. And there you have it, another piece of the puzzle revealed in this episode of The Last Clue. Think you've solved the case? Submit your theory through our Google form linked in the Featured tab and in the comments on the Facebook page, The Last Clue, a mystery podcast. Also linked in the descriptions on Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube channel, The Last Clue Podcast. The first correct solution earns a coveted spot on our Wall of Fame. If you're enjoying our mysteries, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast and leave a rating or review. It helps other amateur detectives find us. Join us next time as we continue to unravel the threads of this mystery. Until then, keep your eyes open and your mind sharp, because in this world, everything is a clue. This is Jessa, signing off.